So today's going to have a little bit of a different feel to it. Welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Vespris. This is just a little bit of a self-rant. I'm mad at myself. Why am I mad at myself? I'm mad at myself because, and we talked a little bit about it on one of our shows coming out of the offseason. I'm mad at myself because I've said it before. I'll say it again. The only way you can really completely bone your fantasy team in a bad way, it's a bad bone, is to muck up your first pick. Almost every other thing that happens to your fantasy team is recoverable. Yes, I'm sure there are some of you who are out there saying, I mucked up my first pick and I still did fine. That usually means one of two things. Possibility number one, you just absolutely crushed like your next 5 picks in a row and hit on a late pick. So like, I don't know, you can go back to the draft board, go back to the pre-ranks table. I don't remember where that was. Where was the pre-ranks table for second, third round guys? Like, let's say you got who's a second rounder who turned into a first. Let's say you got Cat in the second round. Third rounder that turned into a first rounder was nobody per game. Totals maybe. Totals board is being screwed by playoff games right now. That's been butchered a tiny bit. You got Dyson Daniels late. You got Tyler Hero in like the 8th round and Josh Hart in the 11th, right before Dyson Daniels in the 12th. And you got Steph and Cat in the second, or Steph or Cat, I guess, in the second round. You got Derek White in the 4th and Jared Allen in the 5th. And like you crushed it. Your totals, you just absolutely blitzed it. That's one possibility. Possibility number two, which is I'd venture to say the slightly more likely one, is that the other people in your league are not the greatest. So you were able to give yourself the ultimate handicap and still prevail. But 98% of the time, I would say that like 1 out of every 50 of you that screwed up your first pick, you probably still did okay. The other 49 of you, that league was probably toast. Myself included, by the way. I did manage to claw into third in a league where my first pick was Luka, and I actually don't know how that happened. That might have been a situation where the rest of the teams in my league just didn't play well this year. So I probably got a little bit lucky. But that, I think, is really the crux of what we're going to talk about today. The only way you can truly screw your team nearly irreparably is to doink your first round pick. I know Luka was number 6 on a per game basis, but he played in 55 ball games. I know that Anthony Davis was number 4 per game, but he played in 53. And I know that Victor Wembanyama was number 2 per game, but he played in only 46. Here's the thing. There is the slight ability to recover with those guys. I'll try to illustrate this as best I can. You have to look at totals ranks. Because the other stuff doesn't really tell you the story. Luka's totals rank was 61. The hell was Anthony Davis's totals rank? Where are you, AD? How did I lose him? He's vanished. He's vanished from sight. Davis, where are you? That's weird. Yahoo doesn't even have him in their top 25 pre-rank board anymore. Yeah, that seems like a thing that is reasonable. Where the hell did Anthony Davis go? And why is my internet not working all that well? It's just like multiple days this week where I'm fighting with my computer. Anthony Davis by totals was 39. So again, there's livability on that. You got just enough games where it worked out okay. Wemby in only 46 games was still a second rounder by totals. The only real examples, Example, we could probably go one, maybe two. There's the head-to-head roto discussion that also needs to sort of come into play on this topic. But certainly of the guys that went at the very tippy top of the board, the one that jumps out as the ultimate in fail was Joel Embiid. He's not the only one, because there was other, and we just talked about some of them, guys that missed a bunch of time, Anthony Davis being one, Wemby being one, Luka being the other one. These guys were all troublesome. So Wemby, Luka, AD, Embiid, where was he? He was 12. He was the very end of the first round. And if you extend it a little bit farther, LaMelo Ball at 15. These are the guys that set you behind the 8 ball this year. Some of these guys had red flags. Anthony Davis has had kind of like a career-long red flag. Although, again, I think he actually would have been a pretty good first-round pick if not for tried to play through it right after the trade in Dallas and then aggravated his stuff and missed another 15 games. He would have been up around probably 68, 69, 70 ball games this year if not for that secondary injury. Wemby, obviously the blood clot. There was really no way to see that one coming. That one was very hard to tell. Luka was, I think, similar boat to Anthony Davis, where you're just sort of closing your eyes, crossing your fingers, and praying that off the finals run, they did not win a title, finals run, that his body was going to be a little bit more broken down than usual. Because these guys really do need, teams that finish playing in June and then are back in training camp 3 months later. That's not enough for these guys. They need more time than 3 months to get their bodies right, to, work off in-season weight, deal with injuries, get back to whatever series of things it is. But then Joel Embiid and LaMelo Ball were like kings of the red flags. And time again on this podcast, I just kept saying, I don't want these guys. And then I did it anyway. With Embiid, at least I said something to the effect of, okay, well, if he falls to like mid-second round, I almost feel like I need to take a shot on him. But then there were leagues where I took him at I think there was one league. It was one. I only had him in 1 out of my 10. I took him at, I think, 14. And obviously that team was trash. That team was cooked. It's not as fun. Well, before I tell you what's not fun, Bet Online is fun. It's the world's most trusted betting platform. It's fun, and it's your number one source for all sports betting action. Baseball, which, by the way, incredibly difficult to handicap. It's in full swing. They got money line and run line. That's how baseball works. Spreads is where my brain can handle. We got the NBA. We got the NHL playoffs. NBA playoffs truck along. Boston stays alive without Jason Tatum for a while. Minnesota finishes off the Golden State Warriors without Steph Curry. War of attrition. The playoffs, as always. People are just like, oh, you had an easy path to the finals. Yeah, the team that stays healthy often is the team that gets to the finals. You can look at every damn year for like the last 2 decades. Probably more. Anyway, if you want to get down on the action, Bet Online is the place to do it. They've got the largest selection of odds on everything from baseball, basketball, NHL, UFC, and live in-game betting while the action is going on. And in between, head down to the Bet Online casino. I found myself wasting a decent amount of time playing Bet Online Blackjack. They've also got poker. They've got live slots, all sorts of fun stuff there. Bet Online, the game starts. Yeah. So, what did I say? I was going to tell you something that wasn't fun. I don't actually remember what it was. It doesn't matter. The point is, I'm ranting right now. I'm ranting because I did the things that I tell myself not to do. And it's not about a specific player. It's not that I'm mad that I ended up with 3 LaMelo Balls and 1 Joel Embiid when I should have had 0 of each. I'm mad because this show is about simplifying fantasy basketball, and I complicated it for myself. So, I remember what I was going to say isn't fun. Here's what's not fun. It's not fun to take the safe play in the first 3 rounds over and over and over again. It's part of why I like to be in 10 leagues, and a good half of them are real kind of cheapo leagues where I can build dramatically different teams and not worry if one of them is just a total dumpster fire, which is what the Joel Embiid team was. This was a cheapo team. It was a $50 Yahoo public roto league. I thought, all right, well, I'm going to take Joel Embiid, and if he plays 55 to 65 games and I get him in the middle of the second round, I'm going to win this roto league because I'm good enough. I know I'm good enough to do decent stuff with the rest of my picks. And if I can get, a bona fide top 3 guy in my second round and I pair him up with hopefully some top 10-ish guy in my first round, there ain't many teams that are going to catch me. Of course, the opposite happened. He was completely useless. That team fell flat on its face. I think there was one other guy on that team that also got pretty good and hurt. And that was the end of it. But that was just 10% of my Yahoo Cash leagues. One of them just gets sort of tossed aside. And still, here on May 15th, more than a month after the season ended, I'm still sitting here and I'm still ranting about how I'm mad at myself. Because if I go back and I look at the leagues where I won, the ones where I prevailed and got first place, one of them was a keeper league. I had very good keepers, and that was pretty much the long and short of it. Second one was I went relatively safe. Not like perfectly safe. I think I took Kevin Durant late second round, but at that point, actually, he was relatively safe. I went Tyrese Halliburton in the middle of the first round. Nothing fancy there. I didn't think he was going to be. I mean, he ended up being a very, very, very good everything fantasy player as the season went on after an incredibly slow start. He was the easiest buy low player in the history of fantasy basketball. Some of that was because of the low turnovers, but I looked at Tyrese Halliburton and I thought near end of the first round per game guy. I expected him to be relatively healthy. We didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but he was a safe pick. He was a safe pick in that league. I went KD, sort of late-ish second round, Jalen Williams, mid-third round, a guy that I deemed to be pretty durable. He got himself hurt towards the end of the season, but it didn't hurt me all that much. I went Miles Turner in the fourth round, Jared Allen in the fifth round. This was a safe, boring draft through the first 5. I made some good moves in the middle of the season. This is a head-to-head league, this one. Decided what I was going to punt. I won the league. So I put safe day 1 with clever rest of the days, and I came out on top. The Roto League, public Roto League that I won was a Jokic league. So that one was okay, do we need to go into that one? Obviously, I won because I had Nikola Jokic, but also relatively safe. Devin Booker at the end of the second round, LeBron at the beginning of the third round. I actually went Rudy Gobert at the end of the fourth round, which is a player that I wasn't targeting at all, but I was like, well, this team's not going to be very good at blocks if I don't do something about it. DeMar, beginning of the fifth round. Then it was Jordan Poole, end of the sixth. And by that time, you can start to do whatever the hell you want, and you can obviously recover from any kind of mistakes. But that was a safe draft. Jokic, Booker, LeBron. I was basically sitting top 2 or top 3 in this league without getting clever at all. You guys might remember how I talked about how I was shoring up 3-pointers at the end of the year, and that's why I basically ran away with a 2-point win in a league that I probably should have tied for first or been maybe 1 point back in second. I got very clever at the end, and that pushed me into first place. So you can't just draft safe and then set it and forget it, because there are going to be some problems along the way. It's a long season, especially in Roto. Every single day matters. But if you combine a safe draft with playing it clever, you have a great chance to win. I'm not going to say you're going to get first place every time, but just looking back through my drafts, the ones where I did the thing that I knew was the safe thing were the leagues where I was at least super competitive. And the ones where I wasn't. I mean, this was it was almost black and white for my results this year looking at it. The leagues where I did not get top 3 was an Embiid league, so it didn't really matter what I did around him all that much. I'm actually not certain why did this Harden Kevin Durant start team. We talked about this before, but I don't remember why that team didn't do all that well. I mean, it took KD too early. That was one. Oh, Jalen Johnson out for the year. My third round pick was a a 0. Fourth round pick was Freddie VanVleet. Fifth round pick was DeAndre Ayton. Sixth was Bradley Beal. It was just a terrible draft. Okay, that was just a bad draft. Like, I had a relatively safe start, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 god awful picks in a row. You just don't recover. That's the team where I don't know why I had DeAndre Ayton. I didn't want anything to do with that guy. But like, Jalen Johnson was one that didn't work out. Freddie VanVleet and Bradley Beal were my worst handicaps of the season, and it's a team where I had both of them on top of 2 to 3 other guys that also didn't pan out. So that one was sort of the anomaly. And again, like, it's not going to always be exactly right. This one was the non-black and white one. But an Anthony Davis, Trae Young team was another one that wasn't competitive because, again, AD missed a bunch of time, so then everything else is going to have to be pretty good. Trae Young was not good this year. If you were punting some stuff, then he was obviously better, but it wasn't good enough. And then a team where I didn't think the draft was actually all that good. I started with Jason Tatum, may his 2025-26 season rest in peace, and Donovan Mitchell, who also was not a very good draft pick. And that team got third place because it was safe. It was a safe draft. I had Fred VanVleet and Bradley Beal on that team too, and Colin Sexton, another blown pick. And that team still managed to get third place because it just had a nice, solid foundation. 2 safe picks, none of them outstanding. Both of them fine. Donovan Mitchell was not good, but he was like, you could survive it. Jalen Williams was my 4th round pick. DeMar in the 5th. Like, these things were safe. They did fine. And I'm good enough at fantasy basketball, and I think you guys are too, to recover from any little mistakes in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round range. But if you just give yourself that easy start, you're going to be okay. Now, this leads itself to 2 discussions. Discussion 1 is, and this is the hardest part of it, how do you know what the frickin' safe pick is at the beginning of a draft? We think a lot of guys are safe that don't turn out to be. Think, looking back at round 1 this past year, I think we all thought that Wemby was relatively safe. He wasn't. I don't know how many people thought that AD and Joel Embiid were safe. Like, that's a pretty easy one. I thought Luka was not all that safe. I think most people disagreed with me. I still took him. We've talked about this. I had 2 leagues where I had 3rd pick. I went Shea in one and Luka in the other, mostly to just sort of diversify my portfolio. But the rest of the first round, Jokic safe, Shea safe, Halliburton safe, Tatum safe, Giannis, if you're punting free throws, safe, Anthony Edwards near the end of the first round, Steph Curry near the end of the first round, James Harden near the end of the first round. These guys were all, actually, as it turned out, relatively safe. Steph missed some time towards the end, but overall, he was also a relatively safe pick. So to me, it's not that hard to just wipe out the 2 or 3 most risky first rounders. The part that gets hard on that is, what if you have the 4th pick and Luka's there and AD's there, and then the drop-off you're looking at, it was like Halliburton, Jason Tatum after that. Can you reconcile in your mind, which, by the way, I don't think Luka's nearly as risky next year as he was this past one. He didn't have to play deep into the playoffs. He was in recovery mode. He's going to have a nice full offseason. Anthony Davis is always going to be something of a risk. Do you skip over those guys? Do you have the 5th pick? Do you skip over AD and go straight to Halliburton? Tatum's not going to be drafted this coming year. If you have like the 9th pick, do you do Anthony Edwards, knowing he's probably not going to be a per-game first rounder, but dude just plays, and he's, again, going deep into the playoffs? These are tough decisions that we're going to have to deal with at the start of next year, and it stems, again, from, like, how do you know who the damn safe guy is? Is James Harden going to get the safe tag? I liked him a lot as a 2nd rounder this year. I'm not sure how much I like him as a probable first-round pick next season. His durability got him there. Do we think Tyrese Maxey's going to go first round? I do not. I think the first round next year is going to be Jokic, Wemby, Shea, Halliburton, Luka, Cat. Probably AD is still in there. Anthony Edwards is probably going to go in the 1st. I think Harden's probably going to go in the 1st. Do we think, did I say Steph? I don't know if Steph's going to go in the 1st. Questionable. 9? I think we've had 9 first rounders that we feel relatively confident about. Yeah. Oh, Giannis. Sorry, forgot about Giannis. Giannis will be in the first round. So 9 or 10. I don't have a clue who the last couple will be. Not a clue. Go safe. Go safe. So it all comes back to this idea of like, how do we decide who to avoid? I think you pick maybe the 2 or 3 absolute riskiest guys in a particular set. And guess what? Sometimes they're going to pan out and you're going to be pissed about it. You know, the year before this past one, when AD played, I think 72 games or something like that, he was a monster. And I had him in a lot of spots because I don't know, I've got a soft spot for Anthony Davis's fantasy game. But it's not going to work every time. And, you know, Joel Embiid, if he falls into like the 3rd, 4th round, he's going to be a tough guy to pass up this year. But I think we have to be more consistent. I'm realizing I have a cut on my finger right in the middle of the show. For you YouTubers wondering what I'm doing here, trying to figure out how I got a cut on my finger. We have to be more consistent in practicing what we preach. If I'm on here telling you I don't think Trae Young gets anywhere near his rank, if you're not punting a bunch of things, I probably shouldn't take Trae Young. And yet here I was. I ended up with him in a couple of spots because I was like, oh, he's still there in the 2nd round. I guess I better do this. No, Dan. So let this show be a written, spoken, multimedia reminder to just go safe. Every damn year, this happens in some capacity. And again, if you're in like 10 leagues and you want to take a shot in one of them, have at it. I'm not going to tell you not to. But I'm still mad about it, even in the one that I did. Because I think what happens is we stare at these numbers for so long. And Joel Embiid, remember, he opened at 9. He jumped up to 7, up to 5, fell down to 12. And so there was this moment where it was like, ooh, did he fall far enough now? The answer was no. But in one league, I was like, yeah, maybe. one league. I wasn't going to do it in a few. I did it in one. And I'm picking on Joel Embiid, but there's always going to be someone that is that type of discussion. So next year, I want you guys to all yell at me on like October 10th, which is, I try to do my drafts relatively late. You guys know that about me. I like to have them tight to the start of the season so we don't get blindsided by injury stuff, you know, a day or two before. It happens, by the way. There are more values on the board in mid-August, but you're also not going to find, you know, if you're doing like a Yahoo Public League, you're not going to find a bunch of chumps that are playing a league in August. It's just everybody that's listening to the same shows as you, and so you're all going to be drafting against each other. So I'd rather just avoid any late injury stuff, draft late to the start of the season, and you lose, again, yes, some of the pre-rank values, but you can better know who to avoid. So draft close to the start of the year, not the point of today's show. And on October 10th or 14th or whatever it is, I need you guys to do me a favor. And that favor is to say, Dan, have you looked at these players' names and rank movement and just all flashing lights and fuzzy numbers so long that you're about to do something stupid and take an unnecessary risk just for the sake of taking an unnecessary risk? Because that's all it is at the end of the day. You don't need to do it. It is not as exciting. It's way more exciting to take Anthony Davis at 5 than it is to this past year to have taken Jason Tatum. Way more exciting. And for 2.5 months, it was a great pick. But for the last 3, it was not. And that's the thing we need to remember. Play it boring. Play it safe. And I get that it's hard, and we're about to wrap this thing up. I understand that it's hard because I'm there with you guys. Draft day is the most fun day of the fantasy season. We all know this. You get into your draft, You got an hour, and it's going to have the largest impact on your team of anything that you do during the fantasy campaign, head-to-head, roto, or otherwise. Though that hour, when you're drafting your team, is the most important hour of the year. So you want it to also be the most exciting moment of the year. But I beg of you, just as I beg of myself, and I beg of you to do this too, I beg of you to make it not exciting. At least not for the first 3 rounds, maybe 4. After that, get nuts. Take some chances, whatever. Make bad decisions, or whatever that always fun expression is. Make bad decisions. But I also beg of you to yell at me on October 10th or October 15th. Dan, I know you're staring at these numbers. I know you're saying, oh, this person is a value now. They weren't a value before, and it's flipping, and this guy's now not a value, and he was a value before, and flip, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Just remind me, when I'm looking at that top 40, don't be swayed by a risky player falling in the pre-ranks. They're falling because they should, because for a month and a half, we've been saying they should fall. I'm telling you now, so you can tell me in 5 months. Oh, that's too far away. That hurts me. That's fine. We get to do draft content in like 2.5 or 3. We'll be okay. And that's it. I had only 4 shows planned for this week. This is the 5th, and I was doing some exercise on the floor of my bedroom over here because I called it my old man routine, which makes sense because I'm just like lying on the floor doing stretches and stuff. And it occurred to me, I was like, what am I the most mad about this year in fantasy basketball? And that was it. I didn't go safe when I should have, over and over and over again. And then, the roto and head-to-head discussion is its own beast because, like, Trae Young and head-to-head was a perfectly fine second-round pick. Trae Young and roto was absolutely catastrophic second-round pick. It's crazy how big of a difference that makes. And we'll do a show at some point where I just rant about head-to-head and roto. And not that, again, like, play whatever you want. I think you should try a roto league if you haven't before because it's more fair. But I also understand that you guys want the excitement. And if I'm going to tell you that your draft shouldn't be fun anymore, you probably want your regular season to be fun. Roto, if I'm telling you to have a not fun draft and a not fun entire regular season until the last moment when you collect your winnings, you're probably not going to listen to me anymore. And with that, I wish you all a lovely Thursday. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Dan Bespris on Twitter at Dan Bespris. Like, rate, and subscribe. Old Man Squad is the network feed on Twitter. It's my Blue Sky address as well. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll wrap up the week with something a little bit more, I don't know, organized? Whatever. It's mid-May. Bye.